There's nothing common.
After the first time.
Hey guys, happy Monday. Today's Monday, June 4th, and I am excited to be here with my friends Clayton Lewis Ferrara, who's the Executive Director of Ideas for Us, and Chris Castro, who is the Director of Sustainability for the City of Orlando. And we're celebrating Ideas for Us, the 10th anniversary of the formation of this amazing organization. So we're going to talk about all sorts of things like plastic straws, sustainability. Tyler, you're on. Let us know you can hear us and see us because I don't have my computer. You guys can read that, right?
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
Good.
I got good eyes.
You have great eyes? All right, so you have to tell me. Tony Crabtree's on. She just graduated the Mayor City Academy with me. Hey, Tony. So welcome, guys. I think they'll give us a thumbs up or thumbs down. We see we got a thumbs up, so we're good. Thank you, Tyler. So both of you have been on the show individually, and I love both of your shows. Unfortunately for Chris, we had a very loud gentleman because we were relocated out here to the coffee area, the reception area at the club.
It seemed like there was a whole party.
It was a whole
party,
and he decided he was going to have a date, like a Vines date or whatever you swipe left, swipe right date, and talk about it the entire time. So you were very kind and gracious, so you can't make it up. So thanks, guys, for being here. So,
thank you. Pleasure.
Give us some background. Most of these people are going to know you, but there's going to be some on here that are going to see it later or who are popping on now that don't know you. So I'll let you guys decide what order we're going to go in. And I'm drinking this drink, by the way, Citrus Club. No straw. No straw, right?
Awesome.
We got to talk about that.
We're going strawless.
I'm working on it. It's water.
So I'll start off. Ted, first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity and for everybody chiming in. Again, my name is Chris Castro. In addition to me being the Director of Sustainability at the city, I'm also the founder and president of Ideas for Us. This is something that, as Ted mentioned, we're celebrating now our 10-year anniversary, a decade of environmental action.
You all were like 12 when you started.
And advancing
out of the womb.
Right out of the womb, we're trying to save the planet. But, you know, we've done some remarkable work here in Orlando, I think building a culture of interested citizens and our peers who really want to make Orlando a leader, not just nationally but internationally in this space. And I think it all stems back to community engagement
100%.
and the work that we've been doing. One thing I wanted to start off with was talking about sustainability in general, right? A lot of people have heard the term and think kind of it's this buzz phrase. And one of the challenges with the term sustainability is it's such an umbrella term. It's a catchment for a lot of the critical factors that allow us to sustain our current way of life and thrive into the future, right?
I would agree. I think most people don't understand the definition of sustainability.
Yeah.
They know you have a position, there's a whole position, so they know it's important, but they don't actually understand what they're supposed to do, what sustainability is supposed to accomplish.
Right. Well, and when you look at it, the root cause of why this is even a problem, why climate change and sea level rise and species extinction is even around is because of the growth of us as humanity, right? In my grandmother's lifetime alone, we've more than doubled the global population. We now have over 7.5 billion people on the planet, and we're on track to hit 9.5 plus billion people by 2050. And of course, with more people comes more resource consumption, right? More natural resources, more of the planet that we need to depend on every day. And that's having adverse effects, right? What we're seeing, what scientists are telling us is that by 2050, we're going to need upwards of 55% more water resources, 60% more food resources, and over 80% more energy in order to meet our growing demand. And you're thinking, how is that even going to be possible, knowing that the current challenges we're facing are having adverse effects on people and the planet, right? And that's what sustainability is all about.
See, you guys got the definition now. We love you too, Shirley.
It's essentially enhancing our collective quality of life, and at the same time, not compromising future generations from achieving a better, cleaner, and healthier future for all.
Yeah.
All right. So Clayton, you give us your introduction, please, because I've got some questions, and I've got a lot of questions.
Good.
They've got a nice outline here, and you know how we do outlines on the TED Show? It's like, okay. I'm gonna let him talk as much as he wants, but I've got questions. So introduce yourself.
I'm Clayton Lewis Ferrara. I'm a biologist. I'm the Executive Director of Ideas for Us, and it's really interesting to think about where we are right now in the world as a species, right? We are extraordinarily technologically advanced. There are more people in the world than ever before, but we're facing some old challenges, and we're trying to figure out how to solve them and how to navigate that in the 21st century. We're still plagued by poverty, we're still plagued by species extinction, we're still plagued by resource and wealth inequality among people, lack of education. There's still millions of people out there who can't read. Just thinking about that was something I was actually contemplating this past weekend, and I can't even imagine what it would be like to navigate the world not being able to do that. So we have a lot of work to do. Sustainability is the path that we have to walk in order to reach the destination of having a healthy society and a healthy civic society, really of your public sector and your private sector, the independent sector of nonprofits and charities doing that work, trying to push us all forward together. Reflecting on the last 10 years, I've been part of Ideas for the last 7. It's really, it went by like a blur. It's a really fascinating thing. But I think it's testament to the fact that, when Chris and a small group of students came up with this concept, they weren't alone in wanting to see these changes happen on campuses, in communities. It was greeted with a lot of enthusiasm and excitement. And I think the best part about looking back, and where we are now, is that has grown so much all around the world.
It's become a culture.
It's become a culture. Not every single university or city had a sustainability department 10 years ago. Very few, in fact. You fast forward to now, and it's growing in being practically mandatory. If a college or a community college or even high schools don't have those types of things, clubs there can start, departments can start embracing those kinds of things, and I think that that's a really good testament to where we're going.
One of the things we talk about in sustainability is this concept of the triple bottom line, right? Social, economic, and environmental.
Right. Most people only care about the one bottom line.
We care about one bottom line.
That's true.
Our whole life has been around one bottom line, the economic growth, the prosperity, our jobs.
Correct.
But the concept of the triple bottom line is really that no decision is sustainable if it doesn't hit each one of those 3 bottom lines equally.
I love that.
Right? It's about people, planet, and prosperity. And so sustainability really encapsulates, as mentioned,
the 3
enhances
Ps.
the 3
Triple
Ps.
P.
The triple P. But
people, planet, prosperity.
and enhancing quality of life, reducing risks, improving our air, water, and land resources so that into the future we can thrive. And that's really what we're trying to do and what Ideas was founded on.
How did you all have, or how did you, Chris, have the wherewithal 10 years ago? Because sustainability, again, is a new word, and I like to think of sustainability, and they might correct me, we don't prep for this, so when I think sustainability, I think accountability. That's my brain. My brain goes immediately to accountability. I'm accountable for all of these things. So sustainability for a lot of people might not get that, but if you throw the word accountability in there, I think they will understand it a little bit more. We're accountable for all of the things that we're doing in our life every single day. It impacts the planet, which then all filters down and impacts all of us. But how did you have that moment 10 years ago, or probably a little longer, where you go, okay, we've got to do this? And Ideas stands for something, right?
It does.
Okay, so I didn't put that in the thing, so I thought that'd be a nice little thing for you to share.
Yeah. So 10 years ago, I'm trying to find my purpose in life and what I'm going to study, and I ended up stumbling on and meeting a mentor of mine and dear friend. Her name is Dr. Penelope Canan. And this lady changed my life.
Hi, Penelope.
Hi, Penelope. Hopefully you're
Hi,
seeing.
Gina Lee. Hi, everybody.
She is a rock star. She's a savior and has done so many things over the last 45 years. But she convinced me to take one of her classes, and her class was environmental sociology. And I'm thinking, environmental sociology, what does that even mean?
Right?
And in that course, the whole premise of the course was identifying how people were impacting the natural world in our day-to-day lives. The water that we're consuming, the way that we produce and distribute our food, the types of energy and the impacts that the energy has on the environment, the waste products that we're producing, the ecological systems that we're disrupting. She broke the whole entire thing down.
I love it.
In one semester. And I got out of that semester, and my friend Henry Harding and I and a group of friends kind of got together and said, this is our time. we need to do something about it. There's no group at UCF that's trying to mobilize the student body to make UCF more sustainable.
And to take action.
How do we make that? And to take action. Be action-oriented, not necessarily a civil disobedience type of organization that's rah-rahing, but solutions, pragmatic solutions that we can develop. And the goal was to be an interdisciplinary student group that brought together students from legal studies, engineering, environmental studies, communications, marketing, education, all of us having a piece to play, because sustainability is not just the environment, it impacts everyone, and all of us has to play a role. So we decided to create an organization called IDEAS, Intellectual Decisions on Environmental Awareness Solutions, IDEAS. And that became, it was essentially the first start of this entire movement that's now grown over the last 10 years to be international. The first thing I remember us talking about is, let's convince President Hitt and the Board of Trustees at UCF to commit to becoming a carbon neutral, sustainable campus in the future. And there was a bunch of universities, Harvard, Yale, all these Ivy Leagues were committing to becoming carbon neutral by a certain year. Some of them were 2030, some of them were 2040.
Very exciting time for this.
Yeah, this was a huge deal.
That's
we
huge.
were in the first group of universities to make this commitment. So we mobilized the student body and we passed a student referendum. And that referendum asked students whether we wanted UCF to become a sustainable campus and fully carbon neutral, meaning the energy that we consume is zero emissions, the water that we're using is fully reclaimed, the waste that we're producing is fully diverted from the landfill and repurposed, et cetera, et cetera.
That takes a lot of money and effort and convincing, right?
It did. It took a lot of convincing, but 86% of the student body actually said, we want this to happen. 86%. And we brought that to the Board of Trustees, and shortly after that, the president actually signs the president's climate commitment and commits UCF, still to this day, to becoming carbon neutral by 2050.
Wow.
And shortly after that, our goal as IDEAS was to figure out what are the types of projects and initiatives and campaigns that we can develop to support UCF in becoming a fully sustainable campus. We started recycling during the tailgates and throughout our dorms.
Oh my God, that's smart.
We started an energy challenge in the dorms called Kill a Watt and encourage students to conserve energy. We started an Adopt a Lake and Adopt a Pond program for other student groups to adopt lakes on campus and help clean them on a regular basis. We ended up writing a grant and installing a massive solar array, still today the largest solar array on campus, right outside of the Rec and Wellness Center, Garage B. And little by little, we became this firm at UCF of students from different disciplines who were advancing sustainability solutions on campus and in the community.
And that
really
changed your trajectory,
that
right?
Completely. My entire life from there. I ended up confirming my degree in environmental science and policy. I minored in energy and sustainability, and then UCF became our test bed. And what happened next was revolutionary, because IDEAS became a movement. Because of social media and our ability to blast up pictures and updates about what we were doing, I had students from Penn State, UCLA, NYU, all up and down the state of Florida, UF, UM, FSU, FGCU, all of them reach out and say, we want to start IDEAS on our campus. What can we do? What is the process? And so in 2009, a year after our inception, we put together a toolkit. It was a campus organizing toolkit that had your constitution and how to organize yourselves and a meeting agenda example and all of the different projects, and it started to go wildfire. Grassroots movement, to the fullest. No paid executive director. We were doing this after hours, on weekends, getting on phone calls and Skypes and getting people to help them start up. And
for years, IDEAS has been our 9 to 5 of our 9 p.m. to 5 a.m.
Right.
We all understand
in
that.
a dorm room. In a dorm room. Started in a dorm room.
And how do you keep it going? Like there's so many changes. You all have been instrumental in implementing or helping implement so many things in the city, in our city, especially because Orlando is so forward-thinking, and we're so blessed to have Mayor Dyer and his forward-thinking thought process.
So true.
So how do you sustain that, though? I don't want to use that word, but that's what I think of. How do you sustain that? How do you continue? Tell us.
3 things, I think. What attracted me to IDEAS, I see myself as one of the early people to jump, the early adopter, right? In its spread, especially as we transitioned into a nonprofit.
True.
And what attracted me to IDEAS was the fact that it was action-based. Chris touched on the fact that it was a little bit different than an advocacy group on UCF's campus. I think that when you attach yourself to real solutions in the community, you gain such an emotional connection to it that this aspect of another 3 P's for you, patience, passion, and persistence, are really 3 things that encapsulate an action-based movement, right? You have to be patient because change isn't always fast, right? There are so many examples from the civil rights movement to the LGBTQ movement to all kinds of things in this country. Patience is very important. Passion, of course, I think is the thing that triggers that aspect of grit.
It would
right?
fuel us.
It fuels you
Sure.
to because your value set, your purpose is connected to that particular cause, and that's such an important thing.
Purpose.
And of course, the persistence aspect. It's extraordinary to see now 10 years later the work that is going on here in the city, right? That we're so fortunate to have a mayor, and of course Chris in leading the Greenworks team that is making Orlando so internationally known for sustainability related things. So that doesn't happen overnight, right? It's been
10
a
years in
slow,
the making.
It's been a slow thing coming in the city. And now, as a region, we can help to influence other places.
Yes.
Ideas for us is wanting to expand our programs to many other places in Florida, particularly because we've spent the last 10 years growing internationally tremendously. We have had a presence of doing action projects in over 30 different countries, which is an amazing thing. Again, largely organized for free through Facebook and all of these kinds of things of people finding us and wanting to join the movement and say, we want to do an action project in our community as well.
Yep.
But Florida needs our help tremendously. And there are other cities from Tampa to St. Pete and Bradenton and Miami
Sure.
that are facing
Jacksonville.
climate change even more. We started talking a little bit about the population boom, right? If we keep things Orlando-centric, in the next 15 years, we're going to grow tremendously
Well, we're
as
the
a city.
fourth fastest growing metro population
Yeah.
in the country. 1,000+ people moving to our region in Orlando. So,
Yeah,
and
it's
and
wild.
not to mention the visitors, right? 72
Right.
million visitors coming
72.
last year alone.
And
We
there's
just hit
consumption there. Then
seven-
we go back to the consumption.
Think
Here you
about
go.
that. They
Yeah.
come here, they use energy. When you're on vacation, you're not conserving energy. You're putting down your AC
I'm really
to
not.
65
Sorry.
degrees. You're taking longer hot
Right.
showers. You're
I'm feeling a little guilty here,
You're producing
Chris.
about a ton of waste per person, these 72 million. And then guess what? You get to go back home. And we, as the city of Orlando, have to deal with all of this consumption. And that's what sustainability is about. How do we ensure that we continue economic growth without compromising social inclusion, social justice issues, and of course the natural resources and the environment that we depend on every day for survival?
Howdy, John. Good to see you
That's
there.
what it's about.
We love
right?
John Howdy Show.
From Trend
What's up,
Aviation.
buddy?
Can't wait to fly with you guys.
All 3 of us need to come by Trendy Airways and catch up. You
Yes,
know
sir.
it, my friend. You
So-
know it.
so that was a
what's
little
the next, So
background
what's
there.
the next step? What's the next big thing? Because going through the Mayor's City Academy, we got a lot of information from Greenworks and sustainability. And there are so many programs that you all just don't know exist. I swear you don't. You need to
Yeah.
go to cityoforlando.net and look it up because it's unbelievable the
Yeah.
amount of things that we offer here. And I think that's why the world really is coming to us a lot more for the guidance and for help, because we've established ourselves as a premier city of sustainability.
It is true.
We just celebrated 5 years with the Hive as well here in
Correct.
Orlando.
Talk about the Hive.
So, well, I guess no time like the present. So this June 6th, actually, it's this coming Wednesday. We're having a special event at East End Market at 6:45 on the second floor till 9 p.m. Free food, so don't worry about being hungry. We want you to have your brains working. But what we do is we bring people together. We have an intergenerational, interdisciplinary group, and we teach them about the global perspective of sustainability around the Sustainable Development Goals. These are an amazing set of goals that people probably don't know about in the general public
I agree.
anywhere near as much as they should. But what they are is 17 things that 193 countries came together and over the course of 2.5 years decided these are 17 things that we have to have achieved by 2030 if we're going to have a successful 21st century.
If we're going to eradicate poverty, if we're going to reduce inequalities, and of
So
course
much at
protect us against the threats to the environment and to climate change.
Absolutely.
And the beautiful thing about the Hive, this is something that both Clay and I thought of actually at Red Light one night. And,
those are when the best ideas come.
They are. So it was 2012.
No.
We're sitting down. We're like, how do we take the same movement that we have growing at universities and college campuses around the country?
Because we were graduated by then.
Yeah, we were graduated.
And we were like, how do we have the
High
same...
school or college? I'm feeling super old right now.
So we were graduated. We had 30 plus chapters in the U.S. We had over 20 internationally. We were like, how do we take the same movement at universities and bring it into the community, create an opportunity to mobilize all people, all ages, regardless of whether you're studying or not, and impact Orlando in a more positive way. And that became the Hive. Just like bees use the hive to create honey, how ants use a hive to create sugars, we are coming together as people to use a hive to create solutions that drive forward a more sustainable city in Orlando.
There's so many amazing people in different areas of thought and study and fellow nonprofit organizations in Orlando.
That's true.
Wouldn't it be great to toss them into a room together and have them look at one of these global issues, but bring it down to a hyper-local level? And use a subject matter expert to give a short lecture, 15 minutes long, but then pose a question to the group that we then go into some kind of human-centered design breakout, design an action project, and then carry it out later on that month.
That word action, I love that.
That's the beautiful thing about the Hive. It's a think and do tank for sustainability.
That's awesome.
So it's not just let's come once a month, first Wednesday of the month, and think about cool ideas.
Yeah.
The whole premise was to think about them, crowdsource ideas from people in all different age groups and all different disciplines and even other organizations, and then let's crystallize that idea through ideas' process, through our organization's process, and let's implement an action project.
So how do you, let me ask you, because I'm obviously just maybe 2 or 3 years older than you, how do you engage my age group? Because I feel like you all are definitely more forward thinking. I'm not trying to give anybody who's my age a hard time. But I think that a lot of times we're stuck in a different, I'm an 70s, 80s kid. Right? So everything was artificial sweetener. We were all trying to do the easy stuff. Nobody cared if your teeth rotted out. I mean, there's so many things that we did that I look back on, can't believe it. But it's also hard to engage us. It's more difficult. You all, it seems like you all have that spirit. How do you get us involved?
It's easier than you think, Ted. I think that, back to that patience, passion, persistence aspect, what's the worst thing that can happen if we develop our society sustainably? Right? Better education, less people impoverished, cleaner air, cleaner water, a wiser use of resources. Right? I've never understood why people who identify as conservative don't care more about conservation. Right? Because it's the ultimate way of being conservative. Right? Why just stop at being fiscally conservative in things? Why not be conservative with all resources and having that understanding that they're precious and that if you can maximize the use of them in a good way, that you can really change the lives of people in mass. I think that if someone cares about business, they have to care about sustainability because it's the future. Not just here in the United States, but if you look abroad, car companies of cars that are manufactured internationally, for instance, your Porsche and your Mercedes and all of these things like that.
Even.
Your
Who
VW.
got big trouble because of their emissions hiding, right?
The European Union is cracking down on emission standards. Yep. China has completely outlawed diesel engines by 2025?
2025. They're going to have all electric, at least electric motors in every vehicle by 2025 manufactured.
Right, China can snap its fingers and do that because they're in a completely different world. First quarter of 2016, they installed more solar than the entire history of the United States had ever installed. Right? They're realizing that we've traded our natural resources and the health of our people for an economic boom. This is unsustainable as it gets. How do we reverse that? Right? So if you care about business, if you care about the economy and politics, and if you care about doing the right thing and you're a good and moral person, then sustainability not just has to be on your radar, but it has to be at the forefront of your mind. I think that regardless of whatever generation you're part of, that's something that will resonate with you. You care about your family, your children, your grandchildren, all of those.
I was going to go
kinds
back
of
to the
things.
family. I think everybody has a stake in this because of our family. It's about our brothers, our sisters, our children.
And the
right,
slash
as a
and
new
burn
man.
culture of the 80s isn't sustainable, right? I think we've
Well, I
all
mean, I think that's
seen
part of the problem. Thomas, thank you. By the way, thank you guys. I appreciate that. Yes, I love this jacket, and I love you guys for commenting.
He's like a
There were
salmon.
also a whole bunch of people that said, thank God we have wonderful creative youth, meaning you two, not me, you two, in our city, which I appreciate that. Dee Dee Bender. Lots of people said hi. We will, I promise you, we'll get back to you.
Good to see
Hi,
you. Thank you
everybody.
for tuning in.
I really, there's the pink again. Thank you, Ellen.
Right.
I think that a lot of times people, when they look at something called the Hive or Ideas for Us, if you're of a certain age group, you're like, oh my gosh, here's what's going to happen. Everybody's going to get together. They all smell. I'm just telling you, it's a hilarious perception, right?
Sure.
We're all going to sing Kumbaya or some version of that.
Right.
And then we're all going to talk about how we're going to change the world. And honestly, you are talking about how you're going to change the world, but it's not like that. These are creative, amazingly intelligent, forward-thinking human beings. So don't feel uncomfortable or weird going to an event, going to something, even if you don't know anyone.
Especially
reach
this Wednesday.
out.
And
Reach
there's a
out
place
to
for
Clay.
everyone, smelly or not.
Smelly or not.
I had to go with the smelly.
No, you bring up a really good point. This is something that all of us are encouraged to get engaged in, and especially with Ideas for Us. I know our culture has always been open to mutualism and embracing of everyone, every thought process, even strong conservatives, because there is a way, there is a balance and a nexus for all of us to come together. One of my favorite solutions that's come out of Ideas for Us over the last 10 years has been fleet farming.
Absolutely.
You all might have heard of this movement that started here in Orlando and has been getting national and international attention for how we're trying to redefine what local food means, right? We have a big problem, not only in this country, but in this world, in how we produce our food to meet our growing demand, right? We have hundreds of thousands, millions of acres that are being monocropped in an industrial agricultural system. And the problem with that is that it's having adverse effects on water quality, on our land and our soils that we depend on to grow that food, and of course on the atmosphere. About a third of our pollution and global climate change emissions are associated with the food system. It's because we're producing food literally 1,800, 2,000 miles away, and we ship it per person, per plate, per day. Think about that.
Wow.
If you eat 3 times a day, your food footprint is about 4,000 miles per day. Think about
it's
the fossil
shocking
fuels.
that it actually works.
It is
It's
shocking that it works.
unsustainable,
It
but
told-
it
right?
works for now.
We're in a globalized society that really does that. And so the whole objective behind fleet farming was to relocalize food production so that we can be more resilient and more self-sustaining as a city. If a hurricane comes through and wipes us out, we have 3 days or less of food supply in the city of Orlando. 3 days or less.
Wow.
So if we're not producing our own food
gonna be a wild
in
3
our
days.
yards, in underutilized land, it's going to be a wild 3 days and people are going to go havoc. And so the concept of fleet farming was, well, where is there land around our communities and around our cities for us to grow food? Land is extremely expensive. People want to develop on land, so it's like $10,000+ per acre. A farmer can't come in and lease or buy that for $10,000 an acre. So we started to look around, and out of the Hive, we proposed this idea to the Hive, and we gathered input, and people said, what about our lawns? There's 40 million acres of lawns in the United States alone. And every day we lose 3,000 acres to development, 3,000 farm agricultural land acres to development. So we're growing, our cities are growing, we're taking out more of the land that we're needing to grow our own food. And so for us, it was a light bulb that went off. What if we create a movement that turns neighborhoods into agrihoods? What if we can create a network of urban farms on people's lawns in order for us to meet our growing demands, neighborhood by neighborhood? And that's what we've done with fleet farming. And it's been incredible. We started that 4 years ago, a year after the Hive, so February 2014. It's been 4.5 years now. Now, the team who's running the Hive, our program director, Lee Perry, is incredible.
I love Lee Perry.
Lee's amazing. Caroline Chomanix is the co-director. She's phenomenal. Both of these girls and the team that they've brought on board, Grant Shaw and Ernest and Elise and Manny, our team in fleet farming has taken this to another level. And now we're not only growing food on people's lawns in Audubon, but we've branched out into Paramore, where it's a notorious food desert, where people have to travel more than a mile, sometimes 2 miles, to get access to fresh whole foods. And when you think back to the health illnesses that people are facing in some of these communities, it comes back to their diet. The hypoglycemia, the hypertension, the diabetes levels are all because people are eating high sugar,
right,
high fat types of food that they're getting at the end of the corner store instead of growing their own food.
Yeah, there's nothing there.
There's nothing there. So we've gone in and literally are now growing food in Paramore. We're growing food in neighbors' lawns throughout Audubon and Colonial Town, and it's becoming a social enterprise. We are making money by not only giving the homeowners free food who are giving us the land, but we're taking the excess and selling it to farmers markets and local restaurants, and that's bringing that money back in so that we can hire our farmers and our directors to continue building this program.
Let me ask you a quick clarification on that.
Sure.
I love this concept. And Lee, I ran into her at an event on Friday, and we talked for a while. She's amazing.
She is incredible.
So do you, as the homeowner, do you have to have it approved by your home? Are there only certain areas? And then if you are approved, are you the one working it, or the fleet farming staff, the people will work it?
If you're enrolled in the Farmlet program, then it's the fleet farming team that comes by and takes care of your lawn.
Yeah.
So, or your farmlet, we call it. So that works really wonderful. But we're very fortunate. There's actually an ordinance that was passed in Orlando where 60% of your front lawn, unlimited side and back, I believe,
correct,
can be edible landscaping. And
I love this.
It is.
It's going to aggravate the heck out of my neighbors, but I'm. And the reason is because they just don't know. They don't. Yeah. We just need to educate them.
It looks beautiful.
They'll be very jealous because it's truly a gorgeous garden. I mean, these are the types of things that are
all right, Lee, you're on. Here we go.
Installed in hotels and things like that, and retirement communities and hospitals. And
what does somebody do? Reach out to Lee or go to...
well, you can go to fleetfarming.org.
Oh, Stacy, my wife just is watching.
Yep.
Our Yard Next. See, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
There you go. Yep. So fleetfarming.org, you can go on there. You can check out the programs. Right now, the Farmlet program that Clay's talking about, it's like a CSA, is operating in Audubon and in Paramore. But for those who don't live in those neighborhoods, we have a garden installation program where we can still come out to your house, build you a raised bed garden, fully professionally built, automatic timer with a drip system irrigation. We give you the soil, the compost, the seeds for an entire year.
It's a great video about it right now.
And it's a fee for service. And by people adopting the garden install program, that helps to underwrite and subsidize us operating in Paramore.
Sure.
So it's a fee for service that we're charging for it, but it really helps us do it.
So fleetfarming.org.
Florida Hospital has joined. Now we have gardens at Florida Hospital. We have gardens at retirement communities. Alfondin is looking to get one.
Nice.
We have over 200 different homeowners who have purchased one in the last 2 years. UCF just started a branch with garden. So Valencia College is about to do it. So things are growing dramatically, and that's an amazing
So
program.
If you bring it on home, right, look at fleet farming as an example of this people, planet, prosperity aspect, right? We're helping people in the community by giving them access to better food that's hyper-local and a community around farming. Fleet does all of these wonderful community activities, swarm rides where we take people out on bikes and teach them how to farm. The planet aspect, because lawns are very damaging to our environment. Runoff and fertilizers killing our springs, just the unproductivity of the soil, right? Soil is a huge carbon sink, one of the largest besides the ocean on the planet, to where the soil is pulling carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere that's causing climate change and sequestering it in biological material in that soil.
Let alone the pollution of the trucks and the tractors and the transport, which is contributing carbon emissions and all of that. So that's the planet.
You've got the planet aspect, and then in the prosperity, in the fact that we're creating jobs. We are an environmental organization that is creating jobs. People have won elections in this country on their ability to create jobs, and in this state. And to realize that sustainability isn't at odds with economic growth is such an important thing that people need to understand and be able to see. Far more jobs are going to be created at multiple income levels to create a healthy economy and a prosperous city with sustainability, with solar, with
especially in the energy
biofuels, right? Especially in the energy economy, than you do in your traditional destructive fossil fuels. There's not one coal mining or oil drilling job in Orlando, right? But there's a tremendous opportunity for solar and for all of these other types of things. So fleet farming to me is such a fantastic example of the people, planet, prosperity in living form in front of you.
All right, so Miranda asked, And I bet you, hey Miranda, I'm so glad you're on, about Lake Nona. And then you had somebody from Uganda who said, love the discussion.
Yes.
Looking forward to see what's
Hello
happening.
to our
in
brothers from
Uganda.
Uganda.
Brothers and sisters
I
in
can tell, I
Uganda.
recognize that name.
Love 'em.
All right, any parting words of wisdom? We've run a little late, but you guys have been so patient. I appreciate it so much. Anything you want to leave them with?
Well,
and we'll post all of your stuff, I guess. We're going to
Please.
post all of the contact information when we're finished.
Please.
So you don't have to repeat all that if you don't want to, but anything.
Two quick things from me. One, we would love for you to come to the Hive this Wednesday. This Wednesday, June 6th, 6:45 at night, not the morning, at East End Market on the second floor. Free food. Please come. We would really like for you to be there. We're going to be talking about the future, the next 10 years of Ideas for Us. We've made it through each one of the Sustainable Development Goals, all 17 each month. We just completed 17 last month in May, and was really wonderful. We had a great group, Guys with Ties, come out. They had done a fundraiser for us, which was wonderful, but we would love for you to come out as we celebrate that. The next thing is we're also going to be launching a crowdsourcing fundraiser here soon. We're looking to do it this month, and it's going to be really focused on all of the wonderful things that we've learned over the last 10 years and bringing them back to expand across Florida. Our Solutions Fund program, which we didn't really get into today, but it's a mechanism to send microgrants to people to fund projects, continuing to grow and develop fleet farming, and of course continuing to grow and develop the Hive. So we need support of people who believe in this and believe in what we're doing and have seen this amazing thing over the last 10 years. Imagine what we could do if we had more community support and more resources.
Yeah, and the only thing I want to add to that is, you mentioned the Solutions Fund a little bit, but the pivot that we've identified in Ideas for Us to sustain this decades to come, is to turn into essentially an environmental action philanthropy, an organization that raises funds and that brings on board businesses who want to support local action, not just here in Orlando, but around the world. And for us to provide these micro grants, upwards of $1,500, $2,000 for proof of concept solutions that people are trying to implement that could scale like a fleet farming. Fleet farming went through this exact process where we developed into the Hive, we funded it through the Solutions Fund, and now it's scaling to other communities, not just here in Orlando, but other places around the country. And the Solutions Fund is really the next phase of Ideas for Us. That's Ideas 2.0. It's building an endowment that allows us to continually perpetuate funding to projects that better our communities and make us more sustainable. I just want to thank everyone over the last 10 years who've come out to an event,
Incredible.
who's joined us for a Hive, who've come out to a cleanup or a recycling event or put up solar, whatever it might be. You have supported this movement in Orlando, and we need you to continue to spread the word, advocate for a more sustainable future, and join us. Continue to come out and support the initiatives that we're doing. Orlando is truly on the map as one of the best cities in the country for the sustainability initiatives that we're doing. And it's not just the city. The city is critical as part of that. Being in the mayor's office, having Mayor Dyer be a forward-thinking mayor, and our city commissioners who all think that sustainability is critical, but it's also critical for the people in our community. It doesn't happen unless people in our neighborhoods and our community groups are putting pressure on our city to say this is important for our quality of life and for us to move forward, right? And so businesses, civil society, nonprofits, let's continue to elevate the importance of the work that we're trying to do here and continue to make Orlando one of the best cities in the entire world.
I think that's the beauty of Ideas for Us, is that, you know, we're not China where we want to just have a top-down solution. Right? The best things that we've come up with as far as projects are bottom up. They come from people who have a wonderful idea that they want to turn into action and develop as a solution that's going to solve the environmental crisis. And just like fleet farming, there are so many out there in our community and in others around the world that we're then able to share these various resources. Plenty of people are watching, but already we've had people from Nepal, from our ideas groups there, Hello Pradesh, and Masareka from Uganda, and absolutely. And it's just really wonderful to think about how a good idea here and a good idea there can unite us in solidarity, that we're all in this together and wanting to make the world a better place. And so much joy, personally, comes from that.
You can probably feel it, the passion.
Well, of course you can.
Right?
It's amazing. It's palpable. And I think they can tell it.
And one thing I've learned from Andre Bailey, a mentor and friend of ours, is you replicate what you celebrate. That thing has stuck with me.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do is celebrate the 10 years of this organization and the efforts that we're doing in hopes of continuing to replicate the type of things that we're doing here in Orlando and around the world. So thank you so much.
Oh my God, thank you guys. It was an awesome show. You were fantastic.
This was a lot of fun.
We love
thank
you
all
guys,
for tuning in. And don't hesitate to reach out.
All right, we love you.
Ideasforus.org, fleetfarming.org, startahive.org.
There you go. Love you guys. See you later.
Take care.